everybody. James Peck from PX Farms, managing the business just outside Cambridge. Started in 2003. We're farming just shy of 12,000 acres, currently on a combinable sugar beet and potato operation, and soon be moving back to a combinable. I came about, as many people did, in the sort of late 1990s, early 2000s, in a basic form of steering. And at that time, the platforms that we were using were John Deere related due to the type of machinery we had. During 2010, I was very lucky enough to get a Nuffield scholarship, in which I then took about going around the world, and my chosen subject became controlled traffic farming. So to do that, I needed to fully embrace an RTK network of precision steering, working on a sort of down to 1 inch basis of repeatability. So I went around the world looking at different systems of what would suit us. I was lucky enough that RTK Farming started up in the area, who were putting up base stations predominantly around Cambridge and in expanding areas. And we now also farm in Bedfordshire, Norfolk, Cambridgeshire. So we needed to have networks that we could sort of bolt onto rather than having to have our individual systems. We did start off with our own individual method of putting up base stations, where we, when we took on farms, we put them up, but actually that is quite an expensive way of doing it. So we moved on to Trimble. And we went on the FMX boxes on the Trimble systems, on everything from the combines through to the sprayers, the tractors. Anything that goes in the field has a RTK Farming FMX box. So we, on my Nuffield, we looked at controlled traffic farming effectively, that works on a 12 meter system. So the combines are on 12 meters. The drills are 12 meters and 6 meters, and we go down to as small as 3 meters, which is the subsoilers, and then we go up to 24 meters on the rolls, and then the sprayers at 36 meters, and obviously fertilizer spreaders, etc. So it's effectively a 12-meter system, and by 2012 we'd fully embraced into Trimble. And we'd fully embraced into controlled traffic farming, which we had started in 2010. But in 2012, I took the decision to out all of the machinery which didn't fit, and to repurchase, which was a big step on an unknown system which I had seen around the world, but not in the UK. So when we were doing that, we looked at implement steering as well, because effectively there was 2 different types. There was the type that would have moved the tractor over, which is the passive, and then that would kept you online, or you could steer the implements. Now, part of the rejig of machinery was that we bought a Sprinter 12-meter drill, which had a tracking drawbar and could be hydraulically operated to be controlled via the Trimble. So we had a separate dome put on the drill, and it independently steers itself with the wheels to keep itself online. Now we don't have that many challenging hills, but Cambridge is always regarded as a flat county, but actually we're on the high hills and slopes. So the longer your implement gets, the worse that it can come off the line, one for a better word. So with the drill, we took the decision to fit this. And we've been running it ever since. So we've effectively done, I think, 9 seasons now with that outfit. And we've had implement steering fitted to our potato equipment, and also steerings on the sprayer, and also on a fertilizer spreader. Now, I dug off early. I was very lucky that when I started working with Grimmy on potato equipment, they presented me a model at an open day that we had here on the farm, and I keep it as sort of a pride of place on the boardroom table. So I've got it to hand, so I can sort of illustrate the point of this.
Yeah.
So hopefully you can see that. So what what we've done is we've taken basically a power harrow, which is just a standard power harrow off the shelf for 6 meters, and we had a drawbar built to go on the rear, and then we put the planter on the back of the drawbar, and then the wheels on the planter here are controlled by Trimble steering independently, and they will move this planter to keep the beds in the right position, because obviously you've now got different points, like running an articulated lorry of swivel. So the steering for us it's really about precision and controlled traffic farming. The basis of what we're trying to achieve is measurement is one of the big issues in agriculture, and the lack of measurement available. So you cannot really decide upon the results you've got unless you can have repeatable measurement. So controlled traffic farming was the start of repeatable measurement, where the machinery is driving exactly the same place year after year after year. We're now starting to see patterns, and there was always going to be a 7-year process in this sort of conversion, where the land would change within that time. And we are now looking at land which feels as if it's a grade less. So it's improved the land. Heavy clay is sort of become, in terms of more silty based as to what its classification would be. So that's mainly due to compaction. So the less you drive on it, the less in which you compact it. Of course, the freer the soil becomes, the easier it becomes to work, etc. And the better the drainages and the root development. So the idea was that we would be able to increase the yield by an 18% increase, purely on the basis of the same inputs we were putting on pre-2012, just because the plants had a better rooting structure and availability of nutrients, and without the compaction element would then be able to increase their output. Because one of the things that throughout my career and also my family's career is we've rather plateaued on the development of, say, wheat, for example, the 10 tonne a hectare club. Yes, you might get 11 or 12 tonne a hectare if you're lucky, but what we're not doing is we're not seeing the range of increase to 15 or 16. But people who are doing the world challenge of how many tons a hectare you can grow on your hectare, they are seeing the benefits. So it's trying to get the average of the farm up and getting the measurement. Now, the steering effectively with the implements is just another form of measurement. If you want to follow with another implement, whether it's weeding or something else, you need that planter to have gone in exactly the place that you need it to. Otherwise, your next machine, if it doesn't have the same setup of drawbar, maybe linkage mounted, is going to suddenly take the rows out. So that was one of the things we started to do, is trying to work on the precision basis, which effectively, to be crude about controlled traffic farming, it is the start of robotics. Once you've got measurement in a field and you start to got good placement, and you start to get a control of the headlands and also the field work, we are at the basis of the start of being able to introduce robotics, because we now have a controlled environment. And that's where effectively I'm working towards long term. I'm not an advocate of the small machines. I still believe for work rate, we're going to still have big machines operating in fields. And that's the model that we've been working on since I started in 2003, which was a much smaller base system of 1,600 acres.